So, welcome you all back to the show today. To all the listeners of the Millionaire by Morning podcast, we have a guest with us today. It's going to be a really interesting conversation. I can already tell by his background, his Instagram, his website. We're here today with John Pabon, and he actually lives in a different country than America. However, he has such a vast background based on um, where he's worked, where he's been, and it all started in America. So he has a lot to say. He knows it from here and across the water, very well versed. John, I want to welcome you to the Millionaire by Morning show this morning for you, this evening for me.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, we've made it to the next day, if anybody's wondering.
There we are, man. So we have a lot to discuss about sustainability and greenwashing. And I want to kind of put you in a conversation that's based on your hashtag. And your hashtag on Instagram is Eat the Rich. And I really want to delve into that. I know where we're at this moment in time in life, not only America, but other countries as well. And a lot of people share that same sentiment. But first and foremost, let's jump back to the past. Let's jump back to where you was first, when you first start having, I guess, love for the earth, because your mission, sole mission at this moment is to save the earth and basically from corrupt companies. So how did that start?
Yeah, so I'm currently in Melbourne, Australia, but originally from Los Angeles. So if anybody's hearing a weird Aussie accent, get your ears checked. So my career started off actually in politics with the United Nations, and I took a really just fortuitous trip, I guess, over to China. Would have been like 2007, 2008, just little summer vacation, and kind of fell in love with the place and thought, oh, well, why don't I go over here and check it out and see what life is like? So thought I'd spend maybe a year over there just living overseas and doing that. And I ended up spending 10 years there. And that's when I really started to learn more about sustainability, which is the field that I'm in. And for me, sustainability isn't necessarily just hugging the trees, saving the polar bears. That's important. But I care more about the people side of things. So how do you help workers? How do you make people's lives better? And a lot of that was formed by living in China, working in and out of more factories than I can even remember, and really seeing what's going on from people that are working in like factory floors to people doing it really, really tough. And I know a lot of people around the world are doing it tough in their own ways right now. So how can we do better by them? How can I use my position and my education, my experience, and my lived experience to help them out as well? And that's kind of ballooned over time into what I'm focusing on now, which is kind of corporate lies and misdirection and the things that not just corporations, but the ultra wealthy are doing to really keep their foot sort of pushing down on the rest of us and making us or preventing us from living the most fulfilled lives that we can live. And I know for a lot of people listening, you might go, well, what does that have to do with sustainability or saving the planet? And for me, the two are interlinked, the social side of things, people, as well as the trees and the polar bears.
Got it. You actually mentioned China. So I'm assuming you're speaking about sweatshops and people and how it connects to America, how people in America buy, the latest fashion, and how those two connect. And you were able to see it with your own eye.
Absolutely. And all of these things are interconnected. Like you hear a lot, especially on the environmental side, where people go and point fingers at this country or that country for being bad or having worse emissions. But at the end of the day, we're all on the same rock, right? And emissions don't care about political and geographic boundaries. They just are. And it's the same with people, right? The things that I might do in Melbourne or you might do in Texas are going to have a direct impact on people that are actually creating this stuff for you. We forget a lot of times that people actually still make the stuff that we wear and that we buy, and there's implications to that. So we all kind of have a responsibility. Now, I'm not saying, and I'm not an activist, I'm not a greenie, I'm not going to go hang off the side of a whaling ship. I operate very much from the realm of reality. I like to buy stuff, I like to consume, sure. But I'm not telling anybody to stop consuming, and I'm not trying to approach this from a really unrealistic perspective. But at the end of the day, how can we move the needle in the right direction and be just a little bit better with our decisions?
Understood. Understood. And we are a society of consumers. And um, if I may ask, with the very fast moving artificial intelligence, um, which is not only creating more pollution of such, it's also creating a job issue, less jobs. Where, like, there's so many. These topics can go so really deep.
Yeah.
So where do you stand with how are we supposed to coexist with the two?
It's a fascinating question. I think if we take a step back for a minute, it kind of points out how nuanced and deep a lot of these issues go. I think a lot of people will look at, let's call it the environmental movement or anything to make the planet a better place for people or the planet, and they go, well, why is it taking so long? Why aren't we done yet? Well, it's not as easy as flipping a switch. It's so nuanced and so deep and intricate that it's not so easy to solve a lot of these issues, which is why it's taken a long time. But if we look at the issue of AI in particular, there's so many different angles you can approach it from. If I look at it from an environmental angle, it's problematic because it uses a lot of natural resources to run and to cool the data centers. So water, land, all of these things on the environmental side. If I look at the people side of things, yeah, it's helping to maybe create new jobs in some ways that we might not even have any understanding are being created. It might help me as a consultant. I can do my job quicker and devote my brain to higher thinking tasks. Sure, it has that as well. But on the other end of things, it's also taking jobs away from people. And I don't know any job, except maybe consulting, depending what kind of consulting you're in, that AI can't do it for you. You're even seeing now doctors that are using AI or robotics in their practices. So who knows where that's going to be in 5 and 10 years? You might have a robot operating on you. So there's so many considerations with this. Where I stand on the whole thing is I'm not quite sure. I think when it comes to just personal use of AI, if you're using it in a way that is beneficial to you and it's not overusing the system, like don't use it to craft an email, just write an email. Don't ask it for psychological advice. That's probably not a good idea. But if you're using it for meaningful things, sure, I can kind of give you a pass. But I think the overuse of it to create silly videos, which, yeah, they're fun. I like watching them too. But I don't think people are thinking of the implications that every time you create one of those videos, you're using a vast amount of resources just for a 10-second laugh.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that people um, consider what's on the other end of that. It's sucking a lot into it, taking away a lot. With that, do you believe that there will, in time, because it's being discussed at the moment, be a universal basic income?
I love these questions. These are good. So, universal basic income has been tried before. So, providing everybody just a basic, say, monthly stipend that they survive on, and then whatever else you want to do, you go ahead and do it, right? So, at least everybody has sort of that equal starting point. So, some countries have tried it, and it's never quite worked. I think it was Switzerland or Austria tried it, really actually tried it, and they couldn't figure out a way to continue to fund it, which is always the issue, right? How do you keep paying into this in perpetuity because it's going to get quite expensive? But I know there's brilliant economic minds that I'm sure are trying to figure this out because as things like AI and the job market continue to get much more difficult to find meaningful jobs and to have a living wage, governments are going to have to find a way to either fix that problem or give people something to survive on. Because if they don't, then you're not going to have a population to support you if you're a politician, or society is going to collapse full stop.
And that's where your hashtag will become true.
Absolutely. Good segue.
Right? So that's exactly when that happens. So now that we're there, what is your definition of what's your explanation for eat the rich?
Yeah, it's not something I created, and I know people have probably heard it before. It actually comes from the 17th century. One of the French philosophers that was kind of there during the French Revolution, and we know how that went, coined the term that when the people don't have food to eat, they will eat the rich. So that's where that comes from. But if people hear it today, they sort of go, "Oh, that's you know leftist politics," or "I don't understand what that means," or "That's just a talking point." And yeah, I guess it is a talking point. It's a good starting point of eating the rich. But for me, it's not, just to be very clear, because I've had people in social media ask me, it's not literally cannibalizing the rich. So let's get that out of the way. I don't want to eat, gristly, fatty rich people. It's about having them pay their fair share to society. And as we all know, a lot of the ultra wealthy, and I've spent a lot of time researching I think there's 2,824 billionaires in the world. The vast majority of them use tax loopholes, regulatory loopholes to get out of paying their fair share. In a lot of places around the world, the individual taxpayer pays more in taxes every year than a billionaire would do, which that's not really fair, right? Even if you don't care so much about equity and equality, which you should, but even if you don't, you can look at that and go, yeah, that's not fair. So when they start to pay their fair share, and we're talking lots and lots of money now going into the war chest, that was a really bad way to phrase that, the coffers of a country, you can start to provide things like a living wage. And while that's happening, the billionaires will probably not even really feel a pinch in their own bank accounts. It's not going to impact them that much, because I don't think people quite understand how much $1 billion is. So one of the my favorite sort of ways of thinking about $1 billion is that if you're in the United States and you're paid 60,000 US a year, you have a job that pays you that, and you don't spend a single cent of that ever, how long do you think it would take to earn $1 billion?
I don't know. It's
It's
beyond me.
it's going to take you 17,000 years.
Wow.
That's how much $1 billion. And some of these people, we talk about people like Elon Musk, is going to potentially be the world's first trillionaire in the not too distant future. So these are vast sums of money. If we take just a little bit of that from them and give it across to the rest of society, they won't even notice it.
Yeah. I've heard someone say that capitalism should have a rule that say when you make 1 billion, you won. That's it.
You
You
win,
win.
you win the race. You win the race. You get a medal, fine, and we get to take the rest of it. You don't get to keep anything over 1 billion. I think that's fair, because what are you going to do with it?
Right.
How do you spend that much money? Is They don't. They can't. They're just, and I'm speaking broadly. This isn't all of them, but they're just greedy.
I I wanted to ask you. That was one of my questions that I wanted to ask. With everything that's going on, with all of it's so just logically, we sat and watched Elon Musk take away from the government when at the same time he had enough money to just maybe cut a check or to help to sustain maybe some businesses or help, we'll just say help in some instances. And so all of the billionaires, not only is it in America, we see it happening over other countries, and what they calling it the oligarchs, and those are the people that are just in charge, which is fine, I guess, if that's the way it has to be. But why is it that they are taking away from the middle class? They're taking it away from the middle. They even have it now where the poor, the poorest, the money is really circulating back to the billionaires for school and such. So my question is a big WHY. Like,
It,
what's the purpose? What's the long? I, I don't get it.
if I'm trying to get into their heads, I think for a lot of them it's about generational wealth. So how can I pass this on to my kids and have them feel safe? Which I think as anybody in the modern world, that's kind of what you want to do, right? You want to make sure your kids have a better life than you do. But for them, it's just all of that's on steroids because of the amount of money that they have. So I think for a lot of them, that's the same thinking. Now, in fairness, a large, let's call it, I'm not going to say a majority because it's not. It's several hundred billionaires, as well as several hundred millionaires, have signed up to what's called the Giving Pledge, which is it was founded by Bill and Melinda Gates and George Soros and Warren Buffett, where the pledge is essentially I'm going to give at least half of my wealth by the time I die. And some have committed to this and have done really, really well. There are examples of billionaires that have given away so much of their wealth that by the time they pass away, they're essentially penniless. That's really difficult to do when you have that much money, but it's possible. A lot of people bring up the best example is Dolly Parton, the country music singer. She's not a billionaire; she's a millionaire, but she could easily be a billionaire if she stopped giving to charities. That's how much money she gives away. She gives away so much of her wealth that she has never even gotten close to the billionaire bracket. That's the kind of stuff we want to see. Nobody is saying get rid of the capitalist system. I mean, that's not I suppose at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do, but I'm not an economist. I'm sure there's a mind thinking about what a better system is, but that's not really my issue. My issue is at this stage of the game, time and place right now, what can we do to get these people thinking more like Dolly Parton and less like Elon Musk?
Right, right. I just it's it and we're all cut from different, cuts of cloth. Um, but just the fact that, you look at a box of cookies now, or even meat, even things that come that's supposed to be healthy, and they're taking out this ingredient so it can last longer. And it's just that's to me, that's your working class that you're killing.
Mhm.
Right?
And
Like,
that's the thing that I think people need to realize when we talk about things like eat the rich and getting billionaires to pay their fair share. It's not this just academic exercise because this stuff's impacting people every time they go to the shops because those billionaires don't become billionaires just by accident. They're penny pinching, and the companies that they're invested in are penny pinching to the point that you go to the supermarket shelf and all of a sudden, things are just not healthy to eat, overpriced, and you don't get much from it. So all of this is, and I don't mean to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's kind of by design to make them all richer. So this isn't a conversation that has nothing to do with, just a normal person on the street. It has everything to do with them.
everything, everything, including the wealth gap. The people that are on the bottom have bought into this notion. A lot of the people, not all, have bought into this notion that it is better to have the people at the top with the billions. Elon Musk about to be a trillionaire. That it's better to have them in some kind of way. We will eventually get a hold to some of the money that trickles down from them or their businesses as well.
Where's my paycheck? We've been talking about this for a while and I've not got paid yet. So yeah, I mean it's something that's been pushed as a narrative that is not realistic. I know that for a lot of them that are well-meaning, and again, that's just a small handful, the money has kind of trickled into different institutions and charities, philanthropies, and to society. So that's worked. But again, that's just a handful out of the almost 3,000 of them. How do we get more of them doing that so that it becomes almost, if I'm a billionaire and I'm not doing it, then I'm kind of ostracized from billionaire society, right? How do you make it unfashionable to be a greedy billionaire?
Right, right.
Because right now they love it. I don't even think they understand that we're having this conversation right now because they're so in their own worlds. They don't pay attention to what people are actually saying.
No,
they
not at
they
all.
operate differently.
Yeah, I guess the Billionaire Boys Club, and we're just not
Yes,
invited.
not at all. And I don't know if I want to be in there because that's a weird world. But I'd like them to do a little bit more than they're doing now.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully somebody will ring the bell and they'll get the picture one day. And it may be when all of their workforce is incapacitated. Just they're like, okay, maybe we should ease back some so these people can have health care,
And
take care of themselves.
that's what's going to do it, right? It's not going to be government coming in and regulating because government's in on it too. So they're not going to rock the boat. It's going to be what impacts the billionaires' wallets, and that might be consumers not buying their stuff anymore, and that works a lot of times, especially with corporate boardrooms and their decision making. Or It could be, like you said, they don't have a workforce because there's nobody left to work anymore. You've killed everybody off, or they don't want to work for you. Then all of a sudden, the billionaire go, "Oh, wait a minute, I think I messed something up. Let me look back at what I did and fix something." That's me maybe having wishful thinking too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's wishful thinking because that,
They've got their bunkers and they've got their rocket ships. I don't know if they
yeah,
actually need us.
and the 100-foot yachts. Can't
Yeah,
forget
that's
about
it.
those. So yeah, land, water, or sea.
They're
So
set.
yeah, that's it. So whatever we do, there's another question, a good segue. How important is community at this moment in time?
Community is everything, honestly, and especially at charged times like these where we're talking about the billionaire class, but of course there's politics, which we don't need to get into. There's the changing climate and environment, which is where I work. There are so many shifts happening in society that you have to lean on that community you have, and we're not talking about a global community, although that's important too, but your local community. And I always tell people, especially people that get overwhelmed with, oh my God, everything going on, all the headlines, all the stuff that's happening. What am I supposed to do about all this? I tell them always go back to community. Start small. Go back to what is happening in your day to day and the things that you can have an impact on. And I know, given how big everything seems, saying that seems like, oh, that's a stupid idea, but I don't think it is. Not only does it help to do things in your local community and to lean on that local community, but that gives you kind of that peace of mind too, because these are the people that you know and love and trust. So yeah, community is absolutely everything, and I encourage more people to lean in on it, especially in times like these where we're so siloed, especially because of social media and especially politics, putting us in different camps. That we need to find more common ground, and I am a big believer that for the vast majority of us, we have more common ground than we can see right now.
I believe that too. I believe that too, John. And I truly think it's going to, we don't know it, we don't see it, but if you truly believe that, you know, there's been different charge times in the world before, and the human the human race normally gets over it, you know, just as being resilient.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely. And this things seem bad right now, especially over the past 5 or 6 years, but historically, this isn't even the worst time in history, which is crazy to think about. There have been a lot of worse periods than what we're going through now. And I know as I say that, I say that as a person sitting in privilege. I get that. And for a lot of people, this is the worst time of their life and the worst time in history. But if you pan out and sort of look at the big picture, there have been worse times and we have gotten through it before. So we're going to get through this as well.
definitely, I believe the same. And community is huge. That's the one place you can turn to.
Hmm.
Um, and podcast. Turn the podcast. Always turn the podcast.
Educate yourself, like learn something new. I think a big way to get over these gaps and these sort of camps that we're in is just to listen to different informed voices. Not everybody, because not everybody deserves to have a microphone in front of them, but find the ones that actually know what they're talking about, like yours, and listen to them and educate yourself and find that common ground that is absolutely out there. You just have to search for it. We have
That's right.
access to all this stuff more than we ever have before in history, so stop watching AI cat videos and learn something today.
Yep, exactly. That's that's a good gem there. That is really good advice. Just kind of stop it and get back on track because we were already on track. Just stop it with the noise and get back on track.
100%.
Let's um let's discuss your books. Can you tell us a little bit about the books that you currently have out?
Sure thing. So when I'm not trying to save the world, I'm writing. I don't know how this has happened, but I have a few books out. So my first book came out in 2020. It's called Sustainability for the Rest of Us. And it's essentially a very practical guide on what you can do to make the planet a better place. I don't like to tell people what to do. So the book is more looking at kind of the psychology, I suppose, of sustainability and doing better and helping to encourage people to forge their own path. Book that came out in 2023, or I suppose it was 2024 in North America, is called The Great Greenwashing. And so that's looking at how brands, governments, influencers are essentially trying to lie to you to make a buck, to try to pretend that they're good for the planet, good for society, when in reality, that's not exactly what's going on. And that book really is to help consumers make more of an informed choice. Now, what I've decided to do, and I don't know why I decided to do this. Over the past year, I have been working on two new books, which will be out next year. So this is actually good timing with this. The first book is called Eat the Rich, Exposing the Not So Ethical Behavior of the 1%. And that looks at lots of topics that we've talked about already today. And the other is called Rethinking Sustainability. And that's more of a business book for business leaders about how they can incorporate a lot of the thinking of my other three books into more of a business setting, because most of the things that I've written on to date and a lot of the work that I do is not, I mean, it's with businesses. That's how I make my money, of course, but it's more looking at individuals and how they can change their individual behavior and just try to be better as human beings.
Okay, John, that's awesome. So you essentially have a trilogy going on.
I think so, or whatever four books would be. A
Well,
trilogy
four
plus a
books.
trilogy plus one. Trilogy plus one. And I think
Okay.
I'm done. I think I'm done after this.
Well, let's say the last book you could turn into a course
There you go.
for business owners. But
Perfect.
we have with the four books, you also have a consulting offer.
Yes, exactly.
Tell us a little
So
bit about that.
sure. So my consulting firm is called Fulcrum Strategic Advisors. I've had it now since 2017. And the reason I came to starting a consulting firm is after basically spending my career in consulting. So the UN, McKinsey, AC Nielsen, and BSR, which is sort of the McKinsey of the sustainability world, I thought, well, there's a big gap when it comes to how all this is communicated. So what we really focus on at Fulcrum is the communication side of things. In sustainability, we call this governance, which is a very boring term, but how are we talking about all this stuff? How are we strategizing it? How are we making sure that we're getting the biggest bang for the buck when it comes to sustainability strategies and marketing and communication? So that's really what we focus on. A big focus for us right now is around greenwashing. So making sure that companies know how to communicate the right way, that they aren't lying to consumers, that they aren't misleading consumers, whether it's on purpose or accidentally. So that's a big push for us right now. And a big reason for that is because governments around the world are starting to focus on companies and fine companies for doing greenwashing, which is great. That's what we want to see. We want to see governments using the regulatory levers to make sure that companies are being a little bit better than they were before.
Got it. John, do you ever expect or suspect pushback because of the work you do? And I mean, you have billionaires over here, people who do not want to follow any type of rules. So do you ever get any pushback?
I'm, honestly, since we're friends, I'm shocked I haven't been sued yet. And I'm not using that. I don't hope nobody does, but I'm just really surprised that nobody's tried that for the things that I've done. And I think a reason why is because either in my writing or my work, it's all based on public information. Like these things, especially in Eat the Rich, I made sure that everything I included in that book was all public info. It's all the stuff that they've said themselves or is on record. So I'm not making anything up. And sometimes what's the saying that you can't make this stuff up, right? The reality is as scary as anything I could create. So there's no point being creative with it. I'm just using their own words. But there's always pushback, especially when it comes to things like sustainability, right? People either embrace it or people are totally against it and don't believe it. So one of the joys of working as a consultant is you don't have to work with everybody. If I'm going into a meeting or to a pitch and I know there's a voice in the room that's saying, "Oh, climate change isn't real," well, I'm not going to work with you. Like it's as easy as that, because I have limited time, capacity, and resources. I'm going to spend that limited amount of stuff with somebody who is actually going to make change. If at this stage of the game you don't believe something's going on, if you can't believe your ears and your eyes, how am I going to convince you that something's going on? So it's one of the few joys, I suppose, of being a consultant is you can choose the clients that you want to work with very wisely. I haven't, luckily, been exposed to that too often. It's only happened a handful of times, but it does feel good when you can say, "Yeah, I don't want to work with you guys. Come back when you've replaced that person."
Right. Yeah, that is a joy. That is a joy being a consultant.
There's a
Any
lot
part
of
of your
not
life.
there's a lot of unjoys too, but it's one of the few joys we have.
Yeah. Right. Right. Well, I tell you one thing, man, you have you have a hell of a niche. Um, haven't seen too many people that just stood on this ground, and there is a lot of businesses and just people in general that need to hear what you have to say, and your consulting could use your consulting. So
Thank you for
yeah,
that. Really, really appreciate that. And look, at the end of the day, I mean, it just makes business sense. I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize, especially business leaders, is it's the smart move to be better. Why wouldn't you want to have more streamlined operations? Why wouldn't you want to treat your people better? Because, if we're looking at it from a pure business perspective, they're going to be more productive and they're going to make more money. Why wouldn't you want to differentiate yourself from the competition because you're doing things that consumers for many years have been demanding that you do? All of this stuff makes business sense. And that's how I approach it. I don't approach this from an altruistic sense. In the back of my mind, I know that there is change happening, but I can't go into a boardroom and start talking about saving the polar bears. They're going to laugh me out of the room. I have to talk about, if you reduce the amount of, I don't know, virgin plastics or virgin wood that you're using in your operations, you're going to save yourself money. Like, these are the conversations we have to have. And I think for people in my space, if any of you all are listening, this is the language you need to start using. Stop using the altruistic save the planet language and start to speak in the language of business, and you're going to get a lot further along.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Speak about the bottom line. They love that.
That's it. That's all they love. They love the
Yeah.
bottom line more than their kids. Are you kidding?
Um. So, John, where can people find you? Social media's website.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find my website, johnpabon.com. It has all the business stuff on there, of course, if anybody wants to work together. It has links to my book, so you can get yourself a copy. And on social media, I've accidentally, and I hate to say this, but I don't have another term for it, I've become an influencer. Ugh. Especially on TikTok. So you can find me on TikTok. I don't do any dancing, but I do conversations like this where I go into depth on subjects around the billionaires, around sustainability, and get into a bit about politics as well as my life as an American living overseas. So that's John A. Pabon.
Awesome. I've checked it out. Anyone listening, go check out the Instagram and check out the TikToks. They're really cool. He has a lot
Oh, thanks.
of information um, that he displays within that short amount of time. So you also have a podcast, right?
I haven't. Oh, that's something that's on my list. And I really appreciate and really look up to people like yourself who've created podcasts and are going for it. I made a promise to myself at the beginning of the year to get a podcast out, which I have a name for it. It's called Sustainability. So it's really looking at sort of the intricacies of sustainability, current events, that sort of stuff. My goal is to have it out by the end of the year, but writing two books at the same time doesn't leave much room for much else.
Oh no. Oh no, not at all. Being productive. It
That's it.
always it always helps to be productive.
Only so many hours in the day.
That's right. That is right. So, John, I want to thank you for coming on and speaking with my crowd. And actually, I'm going to let them go. I like to speak with you to see if there's anything else that we could do that can kind of, I guess, get my crowd on the same page as what you have going on, as far as trying to save the earth while making money.
I like that. Save the earth by making money. No, just, I mean, like we said before, just learn, educate yourself, reach out and ask questions. I think that's what it comes down to. If there's any other message that people remember, it's just be curious. And that's going to take you so far. Be curious, go out, learn, use the information and the accessibility at your fingertips to learn. And that's going to kind of, I think, again, thinking very optimistically, that's going to kind of force people to start really taking a seat and going, oh yeah, this isn't working, that's not working. So that we'll end up getting to the same place, but that can only happen if people are curious. But people will get to where you and I are in their thinking eventually. I'm confident in that.
I
There's no
believe so
other
too.
there's no other way because it's the logical conclusion.
Let me tell you what I've seen with my own two eyes, and I can't believe it, but like I say, I am a believer. So, but I have seen it, and I know, I know where it stems from. I have seen younger generational kids back outside playing with each other. And that wasn't going on for a long time. And I remember parents complaining about it, couldn't understand it. But now, slower, more and more, I'm beginning to see it. And I think just naturally, like just housed up in a room playing a game, I do think that people naturally want to be have human reactions and want to take care of each other, want to be a part of a community. So I believe it happens just kind of naturally, and we just people like you and myself, we just kind of have to push the issue along.
100%. And this, I think people, maybe especially younger generations, don't seem to realize that kind of the way things are now, and I'm talking about the bad stuff that's happening now. A lot of this, yeah, it's always happened, but the scale at which it's happening now is a pretty new thing. Like when you and I were growing up playing outside, that wasn't that long ago. So it's not as if this is ingrained in the human condition to hate each other. At the end of the day, like you mentioned, the default for everybody, for the human condition, is to care and love one another and to build community. So this is just kind of a blip on the radar the past decade or two, but it's not the way we are. It's not what humans are.
Right.
So we'll get back to that default. We will, and I'm
Definitely.
glad to hear that people are.
Definitely. Definitely. I'm seeing it. So yeah, I want to thank you again, man. And
Oh, thank
if
you.
you could hold on, I hope that some people from my community and my crowd, kind of follow you. I'm pretty sure they will on your Instagram.
Awesome. And if people do follow, just send me a DM and let me know where you found me from. And let's have a chat. I'm always open. The reason I'm on social media is because it actually lets me talk to people individually. So don't be scared to reach out and say hi.
Definitely. All right, everyone. Just remember to continue to make moves, make money, and make meaningful memories.